working with formulas in Excel using functions. I've got a spreadsheet here that needs to have total income, total expense, totals for every income and expenses, and net income, average, highest, and lowest income. I'm going to click inside of my first cell that needs the total income for January. Rather than type in the equal sign and point and click to each one of these separate cells in order to add them, I'm going to use the sum function. The sum function is located in two parts or places on your ribbon. On the Home tab in the Editing group, you can see this rather strange looking command, and when I point to it, it says sum. When I click on the down arrow, there are other choices here that I can be working with. On the Formulas tab of the ribbon, in the Function Library group, you can also see that sum function symbol plus a down arrow where it offers up the same functions that I saw on the Home tab. Here the label of the command reads AutoSum, and indeed we're automatically going to be summing up a certain range. Watch what happens when I click. When I click, the sum function comes up and a range B4 to B8. You might be wondering why it knows to start at B4 and goes down to B8. What Excel does is it starts above the cell that's going to contain the formula, and it keeps going up, 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 up until it hits a cell that does not contain a number or a formula where the answer contains a number. And then it pops itself down one cell, and that's the beginning of the range. Then it goes all the way down to the bottom of that list. We're going to press enter to accept this entry. The answer is 19,200, and we can see it's as a result of a formula when I look at the formula bar. Let's create another total, and this time we'll go to total expense. Auto sum, pay attention to the range, B12 to B21, everything looks good, and then I press enter. I'm going to create yet another formula, and this time a total across rows. In N4, I'm going to select auto sum, and this time it's positioning its range from left to right. B4 to M4, yes, we will add. Watch what happens when I try to create an auto sum, though at this point in N5. I auto sum, and it does assume correctly that left to right is the range we want to add. At times, though, you need to watch, because you could create an auto sum or click on auto sum like this time, and what Excel does is starts reading top to bottom. So what are you going to do here to correct the range? I'm going to use my pointing and clicking skills. I'm going to click on the starting point and drag across or do a shift click to the ending point, and you can see Excel is respecting what I have selected as the range. I'll press enter. Now we could speed this up in that we could copy these formulas instead of one at a time creating the same formula across. So I'm going to start here in N6, and then I'm going to drag down to my N8, and you can see how the structure of the formula has been copied down one row so that the row indicator here, when I copy down further, changes and it knows how to add 1 to that row indicator, and now my B7 to M7 become B8 to M8. It's a relative reference, each one of these references in here, and so when I copy relative from the starting point to the ending point, Excel knows to, in this case, because I went from one row to the next as a copy, it increases the row indicator accordingly. Same holds true when I copy my formulas across. Well, I'm going to click and drag across this time all the way to N9, and when I do so, you can see how I'm watching the formula bar. You can see how the column indicator has changed. It has been increased by 1 as it goes across here when I copied. Let's complete our total expense and drag across here. Let's continue on. Here in the net income loss, I'm going to create a formula. I'm not going to use a function though. I've already created a total income and a total expense. So I'm simply going to take away my expense from my total income and have an answer here. Equal, I'll click on B9 and then minus my total expense, which is in B22. When I press enter, I've got my answer. When I autofill across here, you're going to see that as I'm autofilling, each one of these cells contain a formula. Of course, the answer is different, but remember folks, when I copy across my columns, the column indicator is going to be increased by 1. In other words, every time it moves over one column, the letter of the alphabet is going to increase by 1. Let's get into more functions. We need an average income here. So back up to the Formulas tab, Function Library Group. Instead of Auto Sum, or instead of Sum, I'm going to click on the down arrow and choose Average. But look at what Excel is looking at for its range here. This is wrong. This is not the range we're going to use for the average. The range is actually from B4 to M8. This is all of our income data from January all the way through to December. When I press enter, I find my average income is just over $4,800. Highest income will be using max as the function. Again, we need the same range, so I'm going to highlight B4 and do a shift click on M8. Press enter. My highest income is over $11,000. Lowest income, we will be using the min function. Same range, and once I've selected it, I'll find out that my lowest income is $1,200. These are only some of the functions that come with Excel. We used sum, we used average, we used max and min, and then we created a formula without using any functions. Wherever I position my active cell, I can create a formula there. On the Formulas tab of the ribbon in the Function Library group, you can see a lot more commands here, each having their own down arrow. So I can look at date and time functions if I like, logical functions, and lookup and reference. If I want to, I can also work with the insert function, and when I click on insert function, it takes me to a dialog box called insert function, so I can look up a category here of all of my functions and then work with one of the functions that are listed. I can get help on any one of these functions. I'm going to choose all so you can see all of the functions that come with Excel. And then when I go to a certain function like SUMIF, I can get help on it by clicking on the hyperlink at the bottom left. The help in Excel for the functions I feel are fabulous. The help function is fabulous. I can get the syntax or the description here and the syntax, which will show me the structure of the formula. And what I like about the help is that it gives me at least one example of how it's used in a spreadsheet. And I can even copy the example if I want, and it tells me how I can do that, so I can experiment inside of a spreadsheet. I'm going to close help, and remember I went to insert function when I was over here on the Formulas tab and in the Function Library group. But there's another place to find insert function, and I don't have to be on the Formulas tab. So I'm just going to take ourselves back to home and locate the insert function, the FX, to the left of the formula bar. So I can launch my insert function at any time, no matter what tab I'm in, and get help on the function to build the structure of my formula. This gives you a sneak peek at some of the functions that are in Excel, and also what happens when you copy formulas in Excel. Remember folks, when you copy a formula in Excel, the cell references are called relative references to start off with. So depending on what direction you're going, Excel knows how to increase or decrease the column or the row indicator accordingly.